Hello, I am here with Riley Doyle and Kate Aviles, the two stars of the Lone Pine movie. Now they have seen the movie and they, even after all the perils of shooting, still agree to talk to me. So I'm happy enough about that. So I wanted to kind of get their takes on the film and give you guys, the viewers, a behind the scenes look into the minds of the incredible talent that are these actors. And I would say friends at this point. I hope Riley would consider me a friend at this point. Okay, all
I'm
right, good. We're in. So we're gonna start with a few questions for both of you. Riley, we'll have you go first. Was there any part of the film that you were nervous about before shooting, and was it as bad, or not bad at all, or worse than you expected?
When we first started shooting at the Painted Rock, that was when I was most nervous because I was just new to everybody and kind of new to all of this acting. And then after I was like, oh, that's not so bad because I got to know everybody on the crew and just got a feel for what was going to happen.
Well, that's awesome. I remember when the horse scene, you were pretty nervous, and of course, Riley was the most nervous of anyone of the horses. So of course they gave her the hardest and biggest horse that they could possibly find, and you did a good job. But I think it was a little bit of lasting trauma a little bit after that.
Definitely.
How about you, Kate?
I wasn't initially nervous for Painted Rock at all because I read the script and I'm like, oh, this will be like a piece of cake. It's just a few shots and we'll be good to go. And then when we were there, it was so cold and my hands were so red and I was so bundled up and I'm like, oh man, is this how everything's gonna be? And the sun came up and it was fine. That was my first time in a desert, by the way, just in case anybody was wondering. But the scene that I was nervous about was the horses, because I'm afraid of horses. And I distinctly remember our producer pulling me aside and saying, stop saying you're afraid of horses in front of Riley. I was like, well, not much I could do, but it ended up really not being that bad. And I think that's because the horse that Tom was on, he gave me that horse's best friend, BFF in the whole world. So my horse ended up just following his, and I really didn't have to do much.
I can't believe the shots looked as good as they ended up looking because we didn't have makeup or hair. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the morning was so cold, and then the afternoons got so warm. Riley's like, I live here. I know this, you losers.
Yeah.
but to us, it was my parents who saw the behind the scenes photos were like, why were you in a North Face jacket in some shots? And then you're in all short sleeve shirt and shorts the next. And I'm just because the weather's bipolar. I don't know what to tell you. And then we'll go back to you, Riley. To the audience who doesn't know, Riley lives in Lone Pine, and that's a pretty film heavy area. And I have heard you've been offered a lot. What made you accept this movie? Because you've been known to turn down roles.
I was in a short film a few years back, and looking back at it, I was like, that wasn't so bad. I felt like I was a part of a family. Everybody was so welcoming and nice. But now I was kind of more nervous because I had a bigger role in this one. So I heard that the crew was smaller. So I was like, so it shouldn't be that bad. I don't think there's going to be that much pressure on me. And there really wasn't. So hard to explain. I was just drawn to this, this set, this everything. It was just so nice. And I'm really glad that I chose this one.
Well, that makes me happy. There really wasn't pressure on you because it was after take two, we're like, all right, let's move on, I guess. We got it. I don't want to ruin it by keep doing it. How about you, Kate?
I mean, a very similar reason where I knew it was going to be a very small crew and I'd never been to Lone Pine before. So it really just sounded like a lot of fun to work on. And I was like, well, shoot, I'll audition for this. It sounds like a blast. All of the films that I've done up to this point have been serio comics, or they've been strictly comedy, or they've been Dracula or something. So this was exciting because I would have had the opportunity to work on something that felt more real and looked at life through a very real lens, as opposed to trying to make light out of it. It's it is what it is.
Riley, now that you've seen the film, is there something that was drastically different than what you imagined? And was the film kind of what you expected it to be, or was it kind of different?
The part where we did all of the flashbacks, I didn't expect them to be mesmerizing. They were so cool, and I was just oh, this is gonna look kind of just old. I didn't expect it to be so just like aesthetically pleasing to the eye. And then all of the like car scenes, I thought it was just really like different from what I thought it would be, but I think it turned out like really cool.
Flashback scenes. They were shot on like Super 8 film, which of course you know, you were there. But it was shot on a very specific type of Super 8 film where that brings out like really vibrant colors. So that's how we were able to do that. It's a film called Kodak Ektachrome 100. The funny part about that is I had been testing that film for months leading up, like in still cameras. Every single roll that I tested on didn't work. Like it got blown out, I didn't expose it properly, or my metering was off. I'm just dumb enough where I'll take risks like that. And it turned out that I think that footage turned out so great. I was excited for you guys to see it too. And then what about you, Kate? Was there anything you thought was drastically different?
Yeah, so I think what happened in my brain was that while we were filming it, even though I knew the film was going to be like 7 to 8 minutes long, it still felt like the story was longer in my head. So when I saw the film, it was more of like these beautiful vignettes of a trip that like a mother and daughter were having. And I was like, oh, that's right. This is what it was supposed to be. And it works really, really beautifully. So I liked it a lot.
Well, thanks. So Riley, one thing I noticed, you could go into a very serious zone very quickly. You would be like climbing rocks and like napping. And then we'd be like, okay, Riley, we need you to be really emotional. And you could just turn it off. You know, I've worked with professional actors who couldn't do that. Do you have a process for that? Or is it just like a natural thing you can do?
It was kind of just a natural thing. Since it was like one of my first times doing this, I was like, okay, I need to be serious. We're on set. That sounds so like official when I'm really not. But like when we're on set, it's like, okay, it's time to be serious. You really have to like get in the headspace to do this. So it was kind of natural because I was just like, okay, it isn't time to be goofy.
There was one scene in particular, the scene at Haystack, where I looked at your grandmother and I was just like, what are we doing here? Like, she's just so talented. And then for you, Kate, one thing I was worried about with Fallon is it is such a short film. I didn't want the mom to be a prop. I wanted this to be a story that a mom and daughter could watch together and get almost two different stories out of it. Son or daughter sees like a story about a fun vacation, and a mom sees a story a little bit deeper than that. But in doing that, like you said, it is a lot of vignettes with not a lot of dialogue. So much of your character had to be kind of in the eyes and the subtleties of it. Was there a way you kind of prepared for that? What was kind of your process with that?
Well, first of all, when I watched the film, I realized that I was cheating genetically because I kind of had very sad eyes. They're just on my face. I'm like, cool, all right. Excellent, that's good to know. But part of my process was I was constantly repeating these thoughts in my head of what I thought that like Fallon would be going through, because like I'm assuming the love of her life just died. Somebody that she shared a house with, a bed with, her partner, and now he's just gone. So being able to get in that headspace and remind myself as Fallon that this is what I'm going through made it pretty easy for me to reflect that on my face and to just kind of live it while the camera was rolling.
Yeah, well, I will say you're giving a little bit more credit to your eyes than I think I deserve. We specifically added that last scene. There's a last scene in the movie where it's just you. And we specifically added that when I was working with you and we were doing rehearsals. I was like, we need to show this. Like, we need to show the depth that Kate is taking this role. To me, it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And I think you played that so well of like what it takes to be a mom. When we first showed it to like a group at work who are moms, they connected with that scene in particular so much. Oh, okay. And then Riley, on the opposite note, what was your favorite scene to film?
Probably the scene where me and Fallon were just like laying on the bed and she was reflecting like our memories and everything. Because just knowing that was going to be like one of our last scenes just really like I had to really take it in, and it made me happy, like remembering it. And then looking back at it, like Kate did such a good job just like laying there and just looking off into space. and then Rob with the TV lighting effect. Everything just went together so perfectly. And I just really love that scene.
I know, it's so funny because it's such a short scene, but I'm with you. It's one of my favorite scenes ever. The same question to you, Kate.
Riley pretty much covered it, so I'll talk about another one, which was the car scene. The car scene was another favorite of mine, and the one where I was outside of the car at the very end of the film. And I really liked that one because, one, I really felt like I got to flex my acting muscle and really like show off what I can do, so that was neat. But I also, in doing that, I added like a ton of depth to Fallon's character and gave her a moment where she could, like, I guess, just look to the future and try to find something positive in it, which she has something positive. It is, it's Alanna. Alanna is the positive thing in her life, but it is going to be a struggle because she's a single mom. And she, I mean, looking at me and looking at Alanna, obviously she's a young mom. There's all these things that I was thinking about while I was doing that scene that it really, yeah, it made it my favorite because there's just like so much going in there.
I'm totally with you on that. Riley, same kind of question, but I knew that was your favorite scene in this film. Did that end up being your favorite scene in the movie as well, or did you have a favorite scene that was actually that made the movie?
Yeah, I kind of really just liked Kate's ending scene because that just like made it like what it really was.
That's very rare. That like usually the filmmaker's favorite scene is not everybody else's favorite scene. So the fact that it's like one of my favorite and that you guys like it so much. Riley, was there any part of the character that you could relate to, or maybe even it was a part that you built up preparing for the role of Alanna that you could relate to?
The scene where Fallon was like, okay, Alanna, it's time to go. And she was like, but we can't go. That, I was really able to like relate to her because it was like, she just felt so devastated, like, because I can't even get it out in words, but it was just a scene that I was really able to relate because words. Just feeling how she was so sad, I've able to like feel that in real life. Because letting go can be hard and just moving on too.
I do have to say, when we shot that scene and you're acting in it specifically, was one of the first times I think I was ever filming something where I got teary-eyed, where it was like watching you play that. It felt like I was watching the movie, and it felt so real to me. How is she pulling this? You nailed it. You did. You took it to that level that I just blown away by. Same to you. Was there anything you connected with Fallon?
So it definitely took me a second because I've never been like a mom, or not to human children anyway. So but it didn't take me long to like reading the script again, where I remembered that my mom was a single mom for a while, and she was also a young mom, and she had 2 kids, and just kind of like trying to figure life out. And we would go through hard things, and her priority was like pausing her healing from whatever that was in order to make sure that my brother and I were getting right. And I think that was what I brought to Fallon the most, was like, Fallon is here on this trip to get her daughter right so that she can move on from her husband passing away. And that feeling of like, got to get this other person right before you can like handle yourself is something that I've also experienced in my life, not through parenting, of course, but through other things. And so it was pretty easy for me to like adopt that as that these are my feelings. I'm Fallon, I'm doing this.
Right. I want to thank both of you guys for coming. I'm glad you enjoy the film. Riley, I'm still not convinced if you didn't like it that you would tell me, but that's okay. I'll just live in that. Is there anything you guys wanted to say or anything you wanted to give? We'll start with you, Riley, and then we'll go to Kate.
The blankets are actually very comfortable. I have mine right here. It's not from the actual film, but it's still really soft after all this time, even after washing it. And I just love it because it has so many memories attached to it, and it's just great.
Riley, you are more of a professional than any of us. That was awesome. What about you, Kate?
I had a really fun time working on this film, and I know that is in part to Jeremy, but also in part to the fabric company that he works for. And I've been to the office. I've been into his office specifically, and I've seen the color swatches. If you're looking for fabric, Shannon Fabrics is definitely the way to go. And you get a film with a fabric purchase.
And you get the film with the fabric purchase.
And it's with me, and we're the best actors in Lone Pine.
That's right. Starring these two amazing women who did an absolute dream of a job. I think I said this when we wrapped up, but I'll say it again here. You know, this was my first like kind of professionally funded movie, and man, did I luck out having you two. I mean, just the absolute best, most professional, but still fun to hang out with, which is a hard combination, and then just absolute killers on the screen. So I want to thank you guys for coming. If you want to see the Lone Pine movie starring these two amazing human beings, be sure to purchase Digital Cuddle Tapestry, Digital Cuddle Wild Horse Basil, and Digital Cuddle Old West. Every purchase of that fabric will get you the movie. And if you have purchased the fabric and you did not get the movie, email me directly at jeremy@shannonfabrics, and I will personally send you a link to the film. So thank you guys for coming, and I will see both of you, I'm sure, at some point soon.